That was an accident. There was an accident in this script.
You can press a button and you know it goes off the sheet.
Oh, like this. Scattering. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, welcome everybody.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you.
Only I died is once in my life. If only try to take again, to be the best. A feeling I hide that runs as well, that keeps us alive. I want you to climb with me until I'm one of a broken heart, a broken heart. Until I die of a broken heart, a broken heart. Until I die of a broken heart, a broken heart. Until I the heart child is in your hands now, so let's see you smile. So I'm not impressed with your loneliness, and it's been a while since you forgave all those changes made. So let's count the miles together until I die of a broken heart, a broken heart. Until I die of a broken heart, a broken heart. Until I die of a broken heart, a broken heart. Until I die. Only I died this once in this life. If only to try together until I die of a broken heart, a broken heart. Until I die of a broken heart, a broken heart. Until I die of a broken heart, a broken heart. Until I die.
Thank you.
All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like old friends, we just can't pretend. The lovers make the best. We are the reasons how unreal. We can't help but feel that something has been lost. So please, you know you're just like me. Next time, I promise we'll be perfect. Strangers down the line, lovers out of time. Memories unwind. Survive, I still know who you are. But now, I wonder who I was. We'll always be good friends, but the letters have been sent down. So please, you always were so free. You see, I promise we'll meet. Strangers when we meet, strangers on the streets, but lovers while we sleep. Perfect, you know this has to be. We always were so free. We promised that we'd be. What have you done? Darling, as you run, a setting sun. Darling, a fleeting dream, the final tune. Is it always as you want? Is it always as you are? up and down is what makes us. Darling, as you run, a steady sound. Darling, a fleeting dream that finds you. Is it always as you thought? Is it always as you want? Whoever finds you, whoever finds you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
He's smart, he runs away. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, I was just wondering, from the first song that comes to mind from the older albums or newer albums that changed drastically, that even surprised you in the production stage in the studio versus writing it at home?
Gosh, that's a good question. I don't know. Generally speaking, if a song changes a lot in production, the song's a problem child.
Right.
Because you're trying to find something in the production that isn't in the song. So that's, in my mind, that's how it separates itself. Like,
right.
So I don't really know. I mean, is there a song you like that you?
Well,
maybe
like
it's
for
better if you
example,
just ask me about a song that you like, and I can maybe illustrate the idea or something.
Like for example, there's been alternate versions in the past, like say, here's the Atom Bomb.
Right.
What causes that process to begin? Of trying to find another voice in the chords, in the melody.
Well, the version that's the first release one, that's more the band version.
Okay.
That was actually a live take from rehearsal.
Didn't know that.
And Flood was live mixing it and got this really cool sound. So I don't even think there's a master of it. There's just basically a DAT live mix. And it just sounds kind of cool in a weird way.
Yeah.
And actually I'm playing a reverend guitar on that song. Here's the Atom Bomb. And then when we were trying to basically finish what was left at the end before the band broke up. I wrote a totally different set of lyrics and kind of seized on this different feeling of the song that maybe it didn't get a chance to do because we didn't really produce the first version.
Got it.
So it's almost like two scenes of the same movie or something.
Very cool.
I really like doing that. The word I use for it is recontextualizing. And unfortunately, as anybody who's a longtime fan of the band knows, we used to do a lot of recontextualizing live, changing versions, and that's all pretty much dead now. People just tear their hair out if we were, say, doing a different version, 1979. They can deal with the acoustic version or the electric version or whatever, but they can't deal with, like, I'm going to interpret this different way. So unfortunately, that part of the band has kind of gone by the wayside.
Gotcha.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you.
too.
Spencer Folkers, Fort Wayne. Been a long time fan. Shirt I have on today is actually from a friend of mine who he passed away when I was in college. And I were the biggest Pumpkins fans. He's from the Mishawaka, South Bend area.
Cool.
And he passed away right after their door came out. And him and I actually went out to the sand dunes with a whole bunch of friends, and we sat and talked about that album for a long time, and how much of a change it was. And my background, I'm actually a video productions teacher at middle school, and I like movies by picking directors on how they tell stories, and I think musicians are kind of the same way. You don't want to see a musician that tells you the same story over and over.
I couldn't agree more.
And if you trust that director, like Christopher Nolan, you should be able to go on that trip with them and have them tell a different story in a different context. They're not always going to do that same sci-fi genre. And I'm really looking forward to the new album. What I want to know is, since I am a teacher, and I'm trying to get students to have that authentic artistic value, and being with them, not being copycats, how do you get them to, what's your advice on trying to get students to have that authentic self, not trying to copy just to be heard?
I would suggest putting them in a situation where they have to fail. And it's what they do with the failure that is actually more illustrative than success. Aping something that exists, a movie, a play, a song, is really not that hard. It just means you're like a skilled, like an animal that does a trick. And unfortunately our culture rewards, and then when you deal with young people, and I know this from my own experiences, if you write something that or you do something that they understand, you tend to get more approval. And if you do something that's somewhat more authentic, the self recoils because it's like, self with a capital S, recoils because it's like when the person rejects the idea, they're rejecting the person. But most people, when they're on a personal journey with art, it takes a very long time to find their voice. And it doesn't matter what the artistic discipline is. So what I would do is get them to deal with failure. Or use something like akin to automatic writing. So like, is your discipline video production, you said? Or
Yeah, video productions.
Okay, it would be something like this. Okay, you have 5 minutes to write the scene, and you have 10 minutes to shoot it, and you have 20 minutes to edit it. Go. It takes, intuition kicks in, and so what you would want to do then in critical review is not, did you achieve something akin to professional output? Did you achieve something in your intuitive search that actually is singular to you? We're not trying to look for success, we're trying to look for voice success. So in that 30-minute exercise or 1 hour, you'd know better the parameters that would be fair. Do I see something there that tells me you have a future in this particular regard? Like, wow, like, the way you wrote those words, where did that come from? Well, I was thinking of this scene from Interstellar, and it made me think of that, this idea that time is ephemeral. And I didn't really have time to really think it through, so I just kind of jotted these words down. Well, I really like that way that expressed them and see how that worked with that scene. I think the intuitive faculties can always be trusted, and the intellectual faculty is to be avoided at all costs. In the creative process. In the constructive process, I think it has to be intellectual, because ultimately it's time versus money versus, and we know who our audience is. We know that most of our audience is aging, most of our audience is grown up in a particular period. They're used to music being presented in a certain way. And if we go outside the box, we're in for a long night. We're going to get lit up on Twitter and Facebook more than we usually do. And we just have to make a conscious decision whether or not in that 90 minutes we're going to make a new point. And the fact of the matter is, anybody over 30 doesn't want a new point proven. They just don't. They're no longer open to those experiences. They want confirmation. They don't want disintegration. So we made a decision, you know what I'm saying? We've made a conscious decision. We're totally transparent about it. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. That's it. We can go.
When you were recording the Future Embrace,
Yes, sir.
I hear that you did one guitar track on each song.
Yes.
What effects did you use in your guitar to make it sound so grand?
He's asking about the Future Embrace album, my solo album. I only allowed myself one guitar take per song, and I would have to play the take from the beginning to the end live. So there's not even any editing. So I had to figure out these crazy ways to play the guitar to say everything I wanted to say. I did that as a limiting process. By limiting myself, it forced me to be more creative in the way I would play. Because if I had the whole day to do a bunch of overdubs, it would probably sound very much like the Pumpkins, which is exactly what I didn't want to do. The chain on that was actually using, if you've ever used Eventide effects, guitar effects. Eventide now makes pedals, but back in the day you can only use the racks, they're very expensive. And then I would put that actually into PV amps, which uses a digital signature for fuzz, not actual real fuzz, but a digital emulated fuzz. And that combination collapsed the signal. So it could go from large to, I mean, if you could just listen to the guitar on its own, it sounds insane. And then it was just really about balancing and using, you know, different, I wouldn't use guitar pedals, it was more like using how much of the dry signal versus the wet at any given time. It was very complicated. And I still don't really know to this day whether that was wise, because it limited the album in ways that the people I was working with, Bon and Bjorn, didn't agree with. They kept saying, you're such a great guitar player, why don't you do more? Secondarily, if you can hear the album Future of Bass without the guitar, it's actually a totally different album. And so hopefully someday maybe I'll release that version of the album, because it has a totally different emotional component without the guitar. And I think maybe at some point I felt like I had to put guitar on there, because that's what people knew of me. And now I feel less beholden to that idea, so maybe it would be interesting to hear the album sort of recontextualized. Anybody else?
I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you, Billy.
Nice to meet you.
Well, one question. I really like Adore album.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a fan since 20 years, and I would like to know what is the story behind Behold the Nightmare. I really like that song, so...
Honestly, there really isn't a story that I can think of. It's sort of probably a poem made into a song, and has a kind of a cinematic quality, I think. I know sometimes when I write a song, I have a visual image in my mind, and for that song, it was just like a black horse running on a beach at night, kind of thing, you know, or when the sun's going down, you know. And I've never actually seen a horse run on a beach, so it was all in my mind. So yeah. But sometimes the emotional essence of a particular picture or a scene in your mind is enough to create. In essence, I'm trying to write to the feeling. So there's no story. It's writing to an emotional component.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? That's it?
I have another one.
No. No repeats. Did you ask a question earlier?
I did.
Yeah, you did. That's it?
It's a good one, though.
You don't have a question?
Me? No,
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to have the opportunity to ask a question.
Oh.
So you're like Billy Corgan, so like I had to do homework. It has to be a really good question. I don't want to just put something I can't. Thank you, though.
Thank you. I think it's coming. Yes, sir.
So are you writing a book on your spirituality, like on a spiritual journey?
I'm writing a book about my life from a spiritual perspective.
Okay, I'm just curious because I'm minoring in religious studies.
Oh, okay.
Philosophy, so
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I think the thing is I have plenty of spiritual philosophy, but most people tend to recoil dogmatically. You can't even talk to people who are Catholic about Catholicism, because if it doesn't line up with their particular theology, they just won't hear it. And having argued plenty with people who are religious dogmatic people, I don't know whatever the term would be, dogmatically religious, I just find it really so stupid, because in my conception of God, God is not petty, God is unlimited, and it would make sense to me that God would have, like there's 400 different types of music, there'd be 400 different types of religions, because everyone would be trying to express their own version of God vis-a-vis a particular practice or a particular discipline. And so when people get dogmatic about religious theology, A, they're limiting something that I don't think, in essence, can be limited, and B, they're trying to play God themselves, which, you know, as a rebel, that really makes me want to hit them in the head. So, in a religious way. So yeah, I think there's plenty of spirituality in my book, but it's presented in a non-theological way, because I want people to just read the story. Because if I read a Sufi tale from the 16th century, what does it fucking matter what they believed if I get something from the story? And that's my approach. So. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
How did this tour come together in terms of your relationship with Marilyn Manson?
Manson and I were friends for a time, and then we kind of had a weird falling out over a woman, his woman, not mine. and we didn't see each other for a few years. And then when we saw each other, we were both in Europe promoting our new albums, our recent albums. And it was just like, it's one of those things where no time had passed, and it was like we were having the same conversation we'd had before. It was just in a different decade. And I think it was maybe the second night we were hanging out, he said we should do a tour together. I was like, great, love it. And it was really literally that simple. And it's been one of the greatest tours I've ever been on. So fun. The crews are being very, very cordial and friendly and supportive. We're hanging out together almost every night, and it's just great. It's fun. It's really what I thought music would have been like when I joined music. I thought music would be this grand fraternity that once you were in, everyone would hang out and have fun and pat each other back and say, wow, great show. And it's been the complete opposite experience. The complete opposite experience. So it's nice at this point in my life to be having that experience, because I've had very few of those. Which is a shame, and as I like to point out, I have those experiences all the time in wrestling, because wrestling really is a fraternity. So I actually get more of that experience from wrestling than I've ever gotten from music, which is really a shame. Because I was really naive. I thought, wow, once you get in the club, like, you know, everyone's just gonna be like, cool, you're doing great. And it was like the opposite. It was like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And I just never really understood that. And as I like to point out, I think whether or not even it's just crass marketing, the rap world, the country world does a far better job of getting artists to work together to create new opportunities, music, you know, cool things for the public to get excited about. I mean, it is what it is. It's like, you know, seeing people on stage, seeing people interact, seeing people tour together creates a buzz that, you know, it's the 1 + 1 = whatever, you know. I think there's gonna be over 10,000 people here tonight. It's fantastic. I mean, that's rock and roll. It should be like that every night. Okay, last question if you have one. Yes, sir.
I got a question.
Have any women asked questions? Okay.
Go for me. That's all right.
Honestly, I just wanted to be able to talk to you for a second.
Sure.
So I just had a simple question.
Okay.
Are you still passionate about your work now as you were when you first started?
No.
No?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I believe that, and this is a general comment, I believe that the general American culture, and then by extension other cultures of the world, have diminished the impact that a musical artist can have. The audience no longer expects artists to, generally speaking, be political. They expect them to just be entertaining. If you have any kind of career on you, you're expected to get along, even if your career was built on radicalism. So how can I be enthusiastic about that? So I've had to find other ways to be enthusiastic. But in the overall sense, there's no comparison between what it was like to create radical music, play in front of crowds that wanted radical music, play shows that every night were completely different. And if anybody saw those shows back in the day, 3-hour shows, 30-minute versions of Silverfuck. I mean, we were like on fire, and the crowd was on fire with us. This is like being in a Broadway play. You know, it's like cabaret, and my job is to hit the lines and represent my version of that in a Simulcura type way, and then you're looking for a maximal effect. If the Pumpkins have an artistic future beyond just making new music, it'll be not in this realm. Let's call it the making record to tour realm. I think that realm is sorely diminished in the culture. I think it's a crime, particularly that Gen X has just totally given up on that, when they have a lot of artists who are still young enough to produce great music, and I could reel off names. You see those artists have lowered their expectations because the audience's expectations are so fucking low. And particularly when you had a generation, the closest parallel to Gen X would be the 60s generation, the baby boomers, you know, the Jimi Hendrixes, and they created that incredible music. And those artists, of course, as those audiences aged, the expectations became different. But the fact that a Neil Young audience will still show up and see Neil Young play a 40-minute version of Like a Hurricane. You show me anywhere in Gen X where that is the same. So how is it that Neil Young at 70 or 69, I don't know how old Neil Young is, old enough, right? That he can still be that guy, and that audience still wants him to be that guy. And I was that guy, and trust me, if I went out there and played a 40-minute version of Silverfuck, that place would clear out faster than you could. Say William Patrick Corgan. It's a shame. And look, I take responsibility because at the end of the day, it's the great artist and songwriter Pete Townsend once told me to me, not in through the media. He said it's our job to figure it out, and unfortunately, we have not figured it out. We have not figured out a new way to reach you that gives you that feeling in a new way, or do it in an old way that gives you that feeling in a new way. Yes, I'm sure if we did this 17-minute version of Silverfuck just like the album, there would be a segment of the crowd, because they grew up on Slimy Stream, to be like, I'm hearing Silverfuck, but you're not hearing Silverfuck, because the Silverfuck wasn't written to be a script. Silverfuck was a jam. It started as a jam, and it was meant to be different every night. And I still meet people all the time that have legendary stories about seeing Silverfuck somewhere where they were like, you guys play this whole crazy concert, and then you play this 30-minute song, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing, And people were leaving and booing and throwing bottles because, even after 2.5 hours, they were still having a negative reaction. But the point was there was enough passion to have a negative reaction too. People leaving now, that's not a negative reaction. In wrestling, it's called go home heat. It's like, fuck you, I'm done. I won't be back. That's, you know what I mean? You want this, you don't want this. And what we get now is a whole lot of this. I mean, what do you do with that? And I think, like I said, I think if we have a future as a franchise, as a brand, it's in figuring out some new way, whether it's through video or movies or a different kind of staging, so that when you come, we can give you that feeling in a new way that feels like it's 2015 or 2017, not 1994 all over again, just a little bit nicer with a better guitar sound. I don't know, that's not who I am. So I'm on my best behavior right now, not here, but out there I'm on my best behavior, and there's good reasons for that, one of which is just rebuilding the credibility of the band in the world. And when you look at artists, particularly from our same generation, me and Jimmy's same generation, who had far less success than we did, had far less hit songs than we did, far less of a legacy than we have, and they get bigger crowds and, as we like to say, jerked off, excuse my French, because they get along, or they say the right things, or they take the right photos, or they have the right fucking haircut. I mean, you can see we're in almost an untenable position, because we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. And I really don't believe through all these years that people who are Smashing Pumpkins fans, not alternative rock fans, not Gen X fans, not 90s people who are Smashing Pumpkins fans want the band to be that band. So our job is to supersede that expectation beyond whatever we created in the 90s and whatever you are still interested in the present. And unfortunately, we just haven't done a good enough job. So this is the best version of that for today, but this is the end of that road. There's no more of this to find. There's no more, like at 50, I'm not gonna come back and do the same show with, one more Zeitgeist song. I mean, this version of the band this is the end of that road. This is the end of that rainbow. So if there's more, it really will be in creating something truly new, where we can be who we were, who we are, and who we want to be all at the same time. And then you, if you've been a fan, say, for more than 10 years, you don't feel like you're getting punched in the face while you're trying to get what you're looking for. There's some sort of balance there that happens. And that's where we've had to grow up a little bit and understand that confrontation was very much of its time, and it's not a time of confrontation, it's actually a time of celebration. And so I hope that answers your question. All good? Okay. Too negative? Too heavy? Too serious?
Thank you. Thank you.
Come back. Doug.
You were the first. You were the second.